highly recommend if you like Fate Stay Night, you should just click off now, because I'm going to I'm not going to tear this apart as much as I did a Kame ga Killer Terraform Mars, but I'm going to go pretty in-depth. Because overall, this is worse than Fate Zero. People know my opinion on Fate Zero. I think that the first half was pretty good and that the second half was terrible writing. But this is just terrible for the most part all around, in my opinion, in terms of writing. Because we all know the presentation looks stellar, and even though I saw the entire Blu-ray stunt, which is what I was talking about, like how the screen darkened for no reason. Apparently it's a way for them to like show a difference between the streaming version and the Blu-ray, which I think is a cheap tactic, but that's just me. But other than that, just writing-wise, this is terrible. I don't understand why people like this show, I really don't. First, I want to go off into the foreshadowing, because I didn't get to do a talk about this within the previous weeks, and then we'll go into this week, because there wasn't too much foreshadowing this week. The foreshadowing is no longer foreshadowing. It's blatantly telling you who's what. For example, like, when we're seeing, like, or the first time that we saw, what's his name, Issei, I think, Issei's father, or whoever that was, the guy that looked like Issei, with the glasses, he worked at the school president, maybe he was the, principal, I don't know, but yeah, he's blatantly, he's obviously Caster's master, and you can tell that because it was no longer foreshadowing as long as they shown him on screen. From that point on, you just kind of knew that he was Caster's master, because Caster is really, how should we say this, secret, and you never see the principal around. I don't think that's a coincidence. You know, there's the entire thing with, like, when we all knew that Shinji was, Ryder's master, because Shinji didn't show up, and Ryder happened to say, oh, yeah, well, my master is a coward, which was kind of funny, because I thought that it was so cliched that I actually thought that they were going to throw in a plot twist, but they didn't. So, yeah, so that was my thing about the foreshadowing, but going on in this episode, I really don't see how people can get through this show. I was begging for this episode to please end. Because, oh lord, when you first start off the episode, you have this thing with Rin blaming Archer for coming late. He was like, oh, I came at the wrong time. She's like, why did it take you so long to get here? Well, you know, Rin, you could have either, one, carried him with you, or two, used the command spell. I mean, I know that you were an idiot and used the command spell at the beginning of the series, but that's your fault, not his. So with that being said, I think this is just a stupid character. It really is. She's the typical tsundere, and I don't know. She also does this other thing later in the episode where it takes her like 3 minutes after they watch, or well, 3 minutes is more like an exaggeration, but like in their time, it's probably like their real time, like in the show, it's probably equivalent to like 3 minutes, but she takes a while to realize that she is holding Shiro against the wall and that Shiro is with her when they're stalking out Sakura's house. You're kidding me. Why does it take you that long to notice that Shiro's there? You should have been like, what, were you going to do that to a random stranger? You should have noticed it immediately. She clearly did, or else she wouldn't have held him against the wall and just been like, just be quiet. She knew it was Shiro. Don't throw in the pointless dialogue then. There's no point in it. There was no point in that entire line being in there. There was none. Then there's this entire thing with the attention to detail, and some people call me a nitpicker, a hipster, Mr. Salt, Salty Coon, Salty Tootie, Shitty Titties. And it's because I look out for details, because there's some details that are just like, okay, you didn't notice this? Here's a detail that I noticed. There's this entire problem that leads back to a problem that I had the week before this, and the week before that. When people are in the school, why is school still going on after, like, Rin had completely destroyed that one classroom? If I was correct, I thought she left a hole in the wall. So, my question is, how in God's name is the school not investigating this? Why wasn't school canceled for a bit? What's going on? Why are people still going? It's things like that, and this also happened in this episode, like, when you can clearly see that the building hadn't been completely reconstructed. That's a danger issue. And I know that some people are going to count this as being petty or nitpicking, but it really is an issue. If there are clearly destroyed parts of the building, it's a safety issue. You shouldn't be sending people to the school at that moment. Then I'm going to get to one of the highlights, I guess. When you had Shinji, you know, his outrage was kind of unneeded. you know, but it does make sense. It was plausible. And then you have Kirei, we all knew he was going to be a cheater. If you watch Fate Zero, you already knew this. If you didn't watch Fate Zero, it was pretty obvious. But it wasn't necessarily like they had just told you like they did with the other quote-unquote foreshadowing. So I think that was one of the highlights of this episode. I think that Saber, getting some more screen time and hearing more about, what's his name, Shiro, was one of the highlights of the episode, just for the sole factor that Saber now has character. But my problem with her character is that in Fate Zero, it's like she seems so knowledgeable and honorable. What changed her in Fate Stay Night? Or why in God's name is she so different? And I know that Fate Zero is a prequel, but with that being said, does that mean that the servants lose their memory after time? Or is it like every time they're resummoned, they lose memories of the past Grail War? And why was Saber coincidentally summoned again? We can just assume that that's because it was from the same family. In technicality, it's from the same family, I guess. But I don't really think that that's something that really subtracts from the series. Saber's character is something that, in my opinion, she's not as interesting as she was in Fate Zero. Then again, that was kind of hard to comprehend what her entire role was, or her entire controversy was in Fate Zero. But she's not as interesting as she was then. She's a little more developed, or she's developing more, which is more of what the original Saber didn't kind of do, in my opinion. So I do like this Saber a little more, even though she's not as interesting as the one that was really in Fate Zero. She just seems more like a character than the one in Fate Zero. That's just me, though. Then there was this entire issue with the time skip. I was watching this with Corey, and I thought he didn't realize this at first. He eventually realized it, but when they talk about school being back in session, after this entire event, when people got carried out and most of the students went to the hospital, why is it that it felt like a time skip? There had to be some sort of time skip there, because there's no way the students would be in the hospital for a day, be immediately released, and all of them come back to school in a poorly constructed building. That's BS. There's no way that's what happened. What confuses me the most about this show is how people call Shiro one of the best protagonists ever created in anime. I'm not lying. People legitimately say that. He's so dense, and it's like there are categories. Like the two people that he reminds me of are Tatsuya and Nozuki-kun. He's as dense as both. People just call Tatsuya unable to feel, and I can completely understand that, especially in the anime. But here's the difference. Tatsuya's smart. Shiro's an idiot. Nozuki's funny. Shiro's an idiot. There's just he's not even funny. He's just extremely dense. And I don't understand how in God's name this is a good protagonist. Just like in this episode where it's just like really what he did was stupider than what they were talking about in Parasite with like pulling out the hair. And at least the Parasite thing kind of made sense because it was a thing that the government kind of did, and because people are scared to death about there are some creatures that may be trying to kill you out, the hair pulling thing somewhat makes sense in Parasite. Even though it would never happen in real life, you'd get beat up, it at least makes some bit of sense. Whereas this is just like, you're telling me during this time that he's trying to take off his clothes, no one hears this and wonders what's going on, number one? And the fact that he would just naturally think, hey, let's take off his clothes just to see if this is what the problem is, or if we can fix it this way or that way. That's stupid. No one would agree to that. He clearly didn't agree to that, and that wouldn't really happen. It was dumb. It was just stupid writing. And that's just me. I don't know. In short, I think that this is a bad show. And I don't understand how in God's name people are liking this. What I'm going to do, pretty much, is that if I don't, or I'll probably do like a checkpoint for this series once it's the first season is over. You're probably not going to see any more Fate Stay Night reviews until this is over, because like what I've done with Sword Art Online. I just stop reviewing it if all I'm going to do is rant on it. And the way that this has been going these past couple of weeks, it's just been rant after rant after rant. So anyways, yeah, it's just been a downhill spiral for me. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. If you guys did enjoy, please leave a like, comment, and as always, I will see you guys in the next video. Did I say it? If you guys did enjoy? No one enjoyed this. I'm gonna have like 30 dislikes. I guarantee it. I will see you guys later. Deuces.